You're listening to the Intuitive Wellness Cafe podcast. The Intuitive Wellness Cafe podcast is hosted by me, intuitive eating wellness coach Deanna Kozarov. My mission is to show women that health and wellness can be achieved without the pursuit of weight loss, counting calories, and spending hours in the gym punishing yourself. I am taking back health and wellness from diet culture and showing women that they don't have to succumb to diet culture standards to feel good in their body and find joy in life. Welcome to the first episode. My name is Deanna. Again, I'm intuitive eating wellness coach. This is my first episode, and I just wanted to start off by just going to give an overview of why I started this podcast, why did I name it Intuitive Wellness Cafe Podcast, all of that. So I help women stop the diet cycle so they can stress less about food and create healthy habits with ease without the pursuit of dieting, calorie counting, or spending hours in the gym. I named this podcast the Intuitive Wellness Cafe because Welcome back to episode 5 of the Intuitive Wellness Cafe podcast. I hope you're well and good. Today's episode is about the power of community. And before I start, I just want to remind you about my free starter guide, Making Peace with Your Plate, that will be available at the link in the show notes. It will give quick tips that you can start today when it comes to having a much calmer, stress-free relationship with food and your body. So be sure to grab that. Now, I've been thinking so much lately how important the power of community is when it comes to supporting one's overall well-being. Everyone from the young to the old and in between needs support and community in all facets of their lives. And many cultures thrive and rely on family and those surrounding them to support one another. This is, I feel, the downfall for here in the U.S., where relatives and friends, eventually too, sometimes end up living too far away from each other. I recall when growing up in the 80s as a kid, we had my grandparents living 1 block away. So summertime was spent going there so my parents can work. Also like after school too. But nowadays, career opportunities and cost of living has created distance between our support systems. This country, and many others, I'm sure, but I can only speak for the U.S. since I live here. We kind of view society as being individualistic. I kind of like, I will do it on my own. I can pull myself up by the bootstraps. I don't need any help. I don't need anyone to help me. We don't need anyone else around us in order to do the things that we need to do and to have support. And I don't really agree with that. I think that's why our country has a lot of faults because of this. A lot of faults between maternity leave, the short maternity leave that we have, to the high cost of childcare, to the costs of taking care of an older adult even, and everything in between. I think it's, having a lack of support and lack of community really puts people at a disadvantage here. In some of the blue zone countries where people have the most sanitarians, the power of community and the support system was one way to prevent isolation, which isolation can increase mortality. So like in one of the small islands of Greece, it was saying like that if they noticed someone was missing from a community gathering or is not there for weekly church, they will literally go to that person's home and get that person out of the house to make sure that they join them and not sit in isolation, which I love. Also, I am recently reading a book that I checked out at the library. It's called The Little Book of LYKKE, and it's by Meik. I don't know if I'm saying that correctly. He's the CEO of the Happiest Research Institute in Copenhagen. I didn't even know there was such thing that existed till I got this book. And they had found at the Happiest Research Institute and the World Happiness Report that the happiest countries have a strong sense of community, and the happiest people have someone they can rely on in times of need. So I just find that very fascinating, but at the same time, I'm not super surprised that would be the case. And also, I was reading that according to the book, there was a passage that said that happiness does not come from owning a bigger car, but from knowing that we are part of something bigger, part of a community, and that we are all in this together. And that cannot be further from the truth. I totally agree and resonate with that. Of course, there are nuances, as many people don't have family per se to support them due to various reasons. Being part of a support group or community, though, does not have to necessarily be blood relatives, so don't think that it has to be. Seek out those who would benefit from supporting you and vice versa, and form your own community for support and help when needed. My husband and I live far from family, so there are times where they can come to visit to help out, but we ultimately had to form a community and support system of our own outside family. We also help our friends out as they also do not have family here to support them. So we kind of formed our own little community circle. And then, of course, there's like the macro scope of things. If your neighborhood or community or city has, different groups, support groups, community groups, that would also be a great way to get some support. And this all ties to having a community and support from people when it comes to forming wellness habits, especially those that support your non-diet wellness journey. So by forming a community around your health journey, it can help sustain healthy habits that are not tied to diet culture, for instance. Even if it's just to simply bounce off ideas you have or experiences that you may have encountered, is also very beneficial. Getting non-judgmental support and guidance can go a long way to support your non-diet journey. I usually, towards the end of my coaching program, before we close it up, I invite the client to come up with who would be in their circle, who would be part of their support system and community, because then once they graduate from coaching or finish the coaching program, they're all on their own. And of course, they're going to have now the tools to help them thrive, but they're also going to need kind of that support group, accountability group, community to just have them keep on going or, provide any additional support in case for some reason they have a setback or have a fallback, they would be able to turn to them. So I always talk to them about that and ask them to come up with a list or a few people that they can turn to in times of need. So think about who can be in your community circle when it comes to giving you non-judgmental accountability and support. Who would that be? Make a list and or search for groups and communities that have the same things in common. And sometimes it doesn't have to be a large group like in person. There's virtual groups, there's Facebook groups and meetup groups with like-minded individuals are, a couple examples. Even if it's just 2 to 3 friends meeting up for coffee once a month can work. Get creative. And you can even be in more than one community or support group, and that is okay. Now, I do recommend this little book of LYKKE. I haven't finished the entire book. I just started on it, but it has a lots of tips and ways to be able to start your own community or support group. So I would definitely check it out. It's there's been some pretty creative ideas in there. And guarantee, there are women out there that also feel the same way and are looking for like-minded individuals like yourself. So if you are part of any groups, friendship circles, family support, and so forth, I would love to hear from how you do community. You can email me. You can reach out to me on Instagram. Speaking of community, I have a Facebook community group. If you'd like to join us, it's called the Food Freedom Women's Group on Facebook. So just search Food Freedom Women's Group. And you can also come on over to Instagram or sign up for my email list that I mentioned at the beginning, which I will also add in the show notes. If you grab my free guide to making peace with your plate, you can also be on my email list where I send inspiration, tips, support every other week, about twice a month. So you can also come on over there if you are looking for a sense of camaraderie and community and whatnot, including the Facebook community group. And when you are ready to go deeper on topics such as these, I am here for you. I offer a one-to-one private coaching program, and I'll add the link in my show notes to the details of my one-to-one private coaching program, which will have a link to apply. So go ahead and apply, and I will then respond back to you, and we can go from there. And as always, please leave a review, share this episode and podcast with others that you feel would benefit. This would help get the word out more about this podcast and the messages that I talk about here. And thank you again for listening, and I will chat with you on the next episode.